MF Doom, like a true supervillain, wanted to burn everything to the ground. And I can't say I blame him. The man went through a few canon events in his life that would have had even the most optimistic person in the world feeling disillusioned. His distrust of our institutions quickly became a pervasive theme throughout his music. But it wasn't enough for Doom to just chat shit about our society. No, he took it way further than that. In fact, what if I told you that across two key and interconnected songs, Doom not only lays down the case for absolute anarchy, but gives us a detailed game plan on exactly how to achieve it. The first song that we'll explore today works as a manifesto of sorts. At a high level, it exposes the insidious hypocrisy at the core of the two institutions upholding our states, the police and the military-industrial complex. Doom argues that they are both beyond reform and that we need to burn them down. In the second song, he lays out exactly how to do this, putting the listener directly inside his hypothetical revolution and giving us our orders. So buckle up and sit back as we explore the twisted anarchy of MF Doom. By the time Daniel Dumoulin debuted under the MF Doom moniker in 1999, he had already endured a painstaking origin story that rivals that of any comic book villain. Throughout these early years, I would argue that he went through 3 canon events that totally shaped his anarchistic ideology. He originally performed under the name Zevlov X and was 1/3 of the rap trio KMD, which also included Jade One, as well as Doom's brother DJ Subrock. KMD were a brash and unapologetic trio that mixed Afrocentricity with sharp political critique, wearing the black radical mantra proudly. Clearly, Doom was anti-establishment from day one. Too much so, in fact, for the music industry, which became clear when the group's sophomore project was shelved in 1993. This censorship was a glass-shattering moment for Doom, illustrating how our media seeks to suppress black radical expression and preserve the status quo by any means necessary. Doom's life was forever changed when his brother, DJ Subrock, was tragically struck down by a car in New York. Doom didn't just lose his brother that day, he lost his closest creative partner, and this left a rift that cannot be understated. His brother's passing coincided with the label's shelving of the KMD project, and the group was dropped from the label shortly after. These were the first 2 canon events. Just imagine it. Doom had been on the verge of his dreams, and now he had lost everything. He vanished entirely from the scene and spent years homeless, couch surfing and living in destitution. He described this time in the underbelly of society as like being erased, and this brush with poverty was the 3rd canon event, breeding a radical distrust of our systems and our institutions that he spent years distilling into his art. And all of this brings us to the first song that we will be breaking down today. Before I get into it though, I want to very quickly say that if you're a fan of deep dives like this into hip hop, music, movies, politics, and the spaces where all of these things come together, please do consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to support my work further, please consider checking out my Patreon. For just a few dollars, you can get access to uncensored videos and exclusive content that won't make it to YouTube, as well as shout outs and the ability to ask me questions that I answer in my videos. I already have one Patreon supporter, so please stick around to the end to hear me answer their question. Strange Ways is the 16th song on MF Doom and Madlib's iconic collaborative album, Madvillainy. A project that is, for my and a lot of other people's money, one of the greatest albums the genre has ever seen. This song is nothing short of an outright manifesto, offering a razor-sharp lyrical takedown of the police and the military-industrial complex. Ambitious, right? And yet, impressively, he manages to squeeze all of this into a song that's under 2 minutes long. Doom really was efficient as hell. With no time to waste, the first verse puts us straight into the action, painting the image of a maverick cop swerving through traffic to arrest a drug dealer.
Wreak havoc, beatless, mad traffic, sleek and lavish, people speaking, leaking to the maverick. He see it as just another felony drug arrest. Any day could be the one he picked the wrong thug to test.
Notice how Doom's clever use of language clearly positions the police officer and the institution of the police by extension as the antagonist in our story. For example, his phrasing of the line, "Any day could be the one he picks the wrong thug to test," places the burden of blame for any harm that may come to this policeman firmly on his own shoulders. The criminal, who would typically be viewed as the antagonist through a centrist middle American lens, is sympathetically referred to, simply as a father whose baby's got to eat. From his very first introduction, he is humanized as a paternal figure just trying to figure things out. This is a subversion of the typical narrative presented to us by the media, and Doom reinforces this subversion by asking us the question, now, who's the real thugs, killers and gangsters? The police are not only an institution that props up a society that systematically subjugates certain people, but who actively prevents these same people from feeding their children through any means that they can. After posing this question, Doom then hits us with one of the greatest hip-hop lyrics of all time.
When the smoke clear and you can see the sky again, there will be the chopped off heads of Leviathan.
If there is one lyric I want you to take away from this video, one lyric that perfectly summarizes Doom's anarchistic thesis, it is this one. Let me break down why. Here, Doom is referencing one of the most foundational works of political theory, The Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes. In this book, Hobbes argues that a secure nation needs a, quote, Leviathan, by which he means a militarized apparatus who, through the exertion of their power, maintains order and prevents the spread of anarchy. In most societies, this Leviathan has been interpreted as a police force and/or a military, and Hobbes's work is frequently cited as those institutions' moral foundation. We need them, people say, to prevent our society from collapsing in on itself. However, Doom argues here that once his revolution is complete and the smoke clears, this Leviathan will be toppled, headless. He offers no room for compromise here as far as the police are concerned, ending his verse by saying unequivocally that you can't reform them. I want you to remember that line for later. In lieu of a chorus or a hook, this song instead has a 10-second musical breakdown in between the two verses, in which Madlib briefly slows the tempo before speeding it back up again. This gives an off-kilter, destabilizing effect to the song, and I would argue that this works to musically emulate the breaking down of our social order. We are then thrown back in for our second verse, in which Doom moves on from the police, instead setting his sights on the imperialist hypocrisy of the military-industrial complex. He begins by emphasizing the arbitrariness of our modern conflicts, which are often packaged as religiously motivated, by saying,
They pray 4 times a day, they pray 5. Who ways is strange when it's time to survive?
This is, of course, referencing the religious practices of Jewish people who pray 4 times a day on the day of Sabbath, and Muslims who pray 5 times a day. These religious groups are not so different from each other, Doom argues, just one prayer away. And yet their divisions have been used to package and sell conflicts to us for generations, resulting in the loss of countless lives. Ultimately, whatever side they are on, Doom emphasizes that the casualties of war are just trying to survive, much like the drug dealer from our first verse. Doom makes it clear that our skepticism should therefore not be aimed at them, but should instead be aimed upwards at the bosses that sit behind the desks, barking their orders while sitting safely away from the soldiers on the ground, who are, as Doom describes in striking detail, being blown into calves and arms. Ultimately, there is a clear asymmetrical power dynamic on display here, as Western militaries greatly outgun their adversaries, exerting their geopolitical dominance over them, all the while refusing to let them arm themselves. Remember, Madvillainy was released during the War on Terror, when America was ingrained in conflicts in the Middle East that led to a death toll just shy of 5 million people. The real intention of all of this untold suffering and pain? Well, I'll just let Doom explain it for himself, and I want you to pay attention to the line that he ends on here.
Obviously, they came to portion up his fortune. Sounds to me like that old robbery extortion. Same game. You can't reform them.
Just like in the first verse, he ends by emphasizing that you, quote, can't reform them. In Doom's eyes, both the institution of the police and the military-industrial complex are rotten to their core. The song ends abruptly here, perhaps symbolizing that the end might be closer than we think. So there it is, our first song broken down. In just under 2 minutes, Doom has made an insightful case about the moral underpinnings of his anarchistic ideology. It's an epic, ambitious and sweeping statement of a song. The only thing left to do was to get specific. And trust me, when Doom did get specific, he got specific. Welcome to MF Doom's darkest song. Doom's Anarchy saga continues 5 years after Madvillainy, on the 5th track of his 2009 album, Born Like This. On this track, Doom is sounding more villainous than ever. Again, for this song he teamed up with Madlib on the production, who provides a raw, dusty and sinister instrumental that is absolutely backed up by the lyrical content of the song. If Strange Ways was a manifesto for anarchy, then Absolutely is a straight up insurrection, with Doom at its helm, playing the role of charismatic kingpin, the leader of a revolutionary syndicate, delivering a speech to his troops, instructing them exactly on how to cause chaos and take down the system. He starts with the police, which he refers to as them bigger ass piglets. He wants his troops to target them, guerrilla warfare style, going directly for the sergeants and the bosses, whose suffering will in turn pressure the lower levels, the beat walkers and the rest of the punks, to either quit the force or get caught up in the crossfire. Doom's orders are hauntingly specific, instructing them to use stealth, to stick to alleys, and to only strike in cities where they are a stranger. I especially love the specificity in his description of his plan to unalive the district attorney. Pay attention to the wordplay here.
A new way to let the shot spray. A few drops a day, double espresso, DA latte. No smell nor taste, hardly traceable.
Doom describes this as a new way to let shots spray. Shots having a clever double meaning, because instead of going pew 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 and causing chaos in the street, these shots are instead going into the coffee and doing more damage as a result. It's an ice cold line, pure villainy. Some of his other orders are slightly less subtle. For example, this line about bringing back fingers, toes and pictures of their victims and then sending them on to their families is pretty messed up. Or this line, in which he details how they took out a certain judge who has spent many years on the bench causing problems. In fact, this section is so graphic that I'm not even sure if I can say it or show it on YouTube without getting restricted. If you can't tell already, this song is quite something. I would really recommend checking it out for yourself. Ultimately, in Absolutely, Doom sets his aim at the pillars of our justice system, from the police to the judges and the politicians at the very top of this hierarchy. These are the constituent pieces of the Leviathan that he talks about in Strange Ways. Remember, according to Doom, we can't reform them, so he plans to take them down instead. And in this song, he's teaching us exactly how to do it. I think that Absolutely is very much a spiritual successor to Strange Ways. Having laid down his manifesto, this song provides texture and practicality to his villainous scheme. When taken on its own, Absolutely can just be interpreted as a plan to cause chaos and destruction. It's even interpreted on Genius as being about a mafia boss talking to his troops in a gang war. But I'm not so convinced by that interpretation. I think when contextualized as a follow-up to Strange Ways, Doom seeks to provide a dark and dramatic picture of an anarchy that he ultimately views as justified. Of course, I think it is made deliberately extreme. I'm not here arguing that Daniel Doomsday himself wanted to unalive people, but I do think that he created a complex lyrical universe in his work, and this is a universe that he used to enact dark and oftentimes shocking realizations of his political ideology. And ultimately, what more would you expect from rap's greatest supervillain? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment. These help ginormously in allowing my video to hit the algorithm. Plus, if you can't already tell, I'm a massive MF Doom fan and would love to chat with you about him in the comments. And if you want another way to support what I do, please check out my Patreon. For just a few dollars, you can get access to some really cool perks, with many more coming. In fact, I'd love to get your input into the types of perks you'd like to see offered, and I will make sure that I'm tailoring them to the community's wants and needs. On that note, one such perk is the option to have me answer your questions at the end of my videos. And today's question is from Antonio Michaels. Antonio's question is, who is my favourite UK rapper right now? Now that's a glorious question, my friend. If you guys saw my second video on this channel, you'll know that I'm a huge Loyal Kana fan. But to be honest, the UK is overflowing with talent right now, and I think I'm going to have to give the crown to Simbi, Little Sims. I'll definitely be making a video on her in the future, but I love how she reinvents herself on every album, and her album this year was a real revelation for me.